Ladies and gentlemen of the media, following yesterday's presidential and parliamentary elections, Ghanaians at home and abroad have been sitting on tenterhooks awaiting the outcome of the election. Let me say that the data from our own internal collation of the election results indicate that former President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, has won the presidential election decisively. The NDC has also won the parliamentary election, even though we await final collation for a number of seats. However, I believe ultimately that these will not change the overall outcome. I have just called His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to congratulate him as President-elect of the Republic of Ghana.
Time for Fireside, the home of politics, policy, and polity. Khafafa, how was your weekend?
Weekend was good and eventful, other than somebody who launched a very personal attack.
Personal attack?
Yes. I spoke about the economy and the metrics that we use to measure the economy, rather the performance of the economy. And I said emotion, rhetoric, loud outbursts, vituperation were not part of the metrics of measuring the performance of an economy. But somebody actually proved my point by calling me a stupid man. And he proved my point that Kenyans get rather emotional, and emotion makes facts take a backseat. So other than that, my weekend was uneventful.
I mean, just in the interest of clarity, if somebody wants to know that the economy is doing very well and they're looking at the scoreboard, what do they look at to find if they want to establish that the economy is doing well? What are the economic parameters? Yeah,
there are metrics, established metrics like inflation. Every country has a target for inflation. In Kenya, it's 5% plus or minus 2.5%. And Kenya currently is at 2.7%, which is well within the central bank target. And it is the lowest that it has been in over a decade. So it means that something good is happening. Other metrics are the country's currency. Last year it was at a high of 161 shillings to the dollar. Presently it's 129 and going lower. It means something good is happening. And currency is particularly important because every unit change of the Kenya shilling vis-a-vis the dollar translates to 40 billion shillings to our loan book, plus or minus, whichever way the currency is going. So it is important. It's not for nothing. Price of foodstuff, price of fuel, that's what we call headline inflation. Then there's also core inflation. So when you see these things being managed or being controlled, it means that we are headed towards a positive direction. Emotions notwithstanding.
But one can argue that you can have the interest rates at the target level set by the fiscal and monetary authorities, the interest rates at the right level, but Mura does not have money in her pockets. That when Mura goes to the supermarket, what she used to get for 10,000, 5,000, maybe 3 years ago, and today, the basket has become smaller.
Yeah, it's what I talked about much earlier in the week. I talked about the macroeconomics and the microeconomics. Microeconomics is economics that affects people at a more personal level. And that's why you say Mariah does not feel that she has more items in her basket, yet inflation seems to be coming down. And I spoke to that. I said that can be addressed by putting more money into circulation, into the economy. And in Kenya currently, the easiest way to do that is to settle pending bills, because the government owes suppliers, it owes people who have supplied goods and services about 900 billion shillings cumulatively over a period of time. That money, even if just a fraction of it was put back into the economy, trust me, Mora would feel the impact in her pocket.
So how come that money is not being put back in the economy, the pending bills?
Well, this government came in and found Kenya in debt, really indebted. Actually, we're in debt distress, close to debt default. And the focus has been on paying public debt. If you look at the collections, tax revenue collections every month, actually for the last 2 years, the average spending on tax revenues is about 70%. 70% towards debt settlement, both domestic debt and external debt. So it means it crowds out money that would have been put into development. It means it crowds out money that should ideally be circulating within the economy so that Mora feels a pinch. But I've spoken here in the past and I've said the first charge on the consolidated fund is towards debt settlement. Consolidated fund is basically the basket where money that government takes in terms of tax revenues, in terms of surpluses that come from state corporations is put. That money goes into a basket, we call it the consolidated fund. The first charge on it is towards external debt, and that is by law. So we have no choice about it. We cannot say, stop paying external debt so that you can settle pending bills, so that you can sort out Mora. You can't do that. That would be against the law. So you have to, first of all, sort out your external debt, your debt as it falls due. Then, whatever is left over, now you give to Mora.
Now, there's a saying that you can't be all things to all men, so I guess you're in a good space. Kevin, I saw you've been covered heavily in the media, gallivanting and having a cup of tea with governors. I saw you with Governor Anyang' Nyong'o, with Governor Wanga.
Yes.
What is going on? How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. I was on a working tour of the Lake Victoria South region, and I was to visit the county of Kisumu and the county of Homa Bay, starting with the county of Homa Bay, where we paid a courtesy call to the governor of Homa Bay. But of course, as you know, we have not been very kind on the governor of Homa Bay because of she's leading a dancing county.
She's doing what?
So, a dancing county. Okay. So, as I took my entourage, which included my own CS, Engineer Muga, my own PS, Julius Korir, Water Secretary, and my whole board and everybody, so that we could brief the county, they could also brief us on their challenges, and we could share to that. But the governor had made an arrangement that as and when I take anything that is going to be eaten there, they take a photo and put in the media. It's okay, it's a game they play, but it's a petty game, so I don't have to talk about it, but I hear so many people have come across it. Nevertheless, they of course manipulated very many videos to show me bowing down as if I'm sleeping. It is okay. Those are games I've seen. Me, I've been fought badly. Actually, one time it is that governor of Homa Bay, Gladys Wanga, who went to my constituency and told everyone that I don't even have a family. I said, just proceed, because it can only pain if you truly don't have. So that is how she does her things. We will meet Tuko Kwadebe Mbele. So, but the most interesting thing that I really needed to talk about today, other than that you have ambushed me with, was my good friend Kalonzo Musyoka. Mm-hmm. Blaming President William Ruto for the non-existence of IEBC. The person Kenyans must squarely blame for the non-existence of IEBC is one Kalonzo Musyoka.
Why?
When we increased the number of the committee that was to appoint the commissioners to 9,
the selection committee,
the parties were to have 3. And in his head, he had believed if Azimio was going to have 3, he was going to bring 1 and Raila was going to bring 1 and game shot. But this time, democracy had to prevail. The person who was going to represent Azimio had to be elected. And when one Professor Augustus Muli was elected, Kalonzo ran very quickly to court. I don't understand why he was going to court when his perennial candidate, Koki Muli, got 7, and Augustus Muli got 17. What did he go to court to do? Because Kalonzo is stuck with this Koki Muli of his From 13, anything you ask Kalonzo to bring a candidate, it is kokimuli. Whatever Kalonzo owes kokimuli, alepe awache Kenyans to move forward with things. Because there was an election and there is a certificate that was handed over to Augustus Muli. Let Kalonzo produce, if any certificate that was awarded to his kokimuli. So, to come and then say it is President William Ruto delaying this thing. And he even went to court, the court dismissed him. He went to appeal again. So we are not going to take these lies from Kalonzo.
But in the selection of or rather in the election of the members during the selection committee, is there not a provision that there needs to be somebody to represent parliamentary political parties?
Yes.
And another one to represent non-parliamentary political parties? So where does Muli and... actually, the two Mulis, where do they sit?
The two Mulis sit in Azimio. That means the minority in the parliamentary political parties. And then, you see, the parties that are not in Azimio nor in Kenya Kwanza were the ones defined as non-parliamentary political parties. They had already brought their candidates and that was game shot. So there were two candidates left.
Two slots.
Two slots left. And Raila Odinga and his people had brought one and it game shot. So when the election went for the Kalonzo candidate, the perennial one that you call him even at night, Kalonzo ungepeana nani hapa mbele? Kokimuli. Kalonzo, who do you nominate? Kokimuli. Kalonzo, who should be in IBC selection panel? Kokimuli. This Kokimuli Kalonzo is the one delaying Kenyans. Kenyans should be having an IEBC now. He even went to court when this person had lost and everybody signed the certificate, including them.
But there
was even an attempt by Kalonzo Axis to use the Azimio letterhead to write to political parties to accept Kokimuli. Register political parties to accept Kokimuli. And it was rejected.
Does she have a capacity and competence to be a member of the selection committee?
It is not a matter of capacity and competence. It is a matter of who was elected, because Augustus Muli is equally competent. In fact, he's more competent from where I sit. So to come and force Kokimuli in our throats, or whatever he took from Kokimuli, let him return it. Because this candidate that was being presented called Augustus Muli, he was nominated by one of the political parties, National Liberal Party.
Non-parliamentary?
Not non-parliamentary. It is, you see, when you are in Azimio, you are parliamentary, because Azimio was allowed to field candidates, including President Raila Odinga. So that he's the one who was nominated, and they could nominate anybody else. In fact, they were not prevented from nominating anybody, even from another political party. And when the election was called, they lost, and they even conceded defeat. But later, Kalonzo ran to court. What is this? So the problem here is Kalonzo Musyoka. It is not the president. Neither is it the political parties. It is Kalonzo Musyoka. The day Kalonzo Musyoka will say, I concede defeat with my Kokimuli, we will move on and have the team set up, and we will be having an IBC commissioners as soon as possible.
Thanks for that clarity. Fanya, Mambo, how was your weekend? You seem to be very happy.
My weekend was easy, polite. It's a very happy weekend. It started with a lot of graduations. Graduations happening left, right, and center. And comrades from all parts of the country were happy to remind anybody in the graduations who cared to listen that Ruto must go. If they even saw flyers, they told them Ruto must go. From Jekuat, across the country. So comrades are singing one song, which is a good song, Ruto must go. And then the people who like to trivialize things said it's a Mount Kenya affair. I don't know. Ata Egerton walisema Ruto must go. I don't know whether Egerton is just Mount Kenya affair. Comrades cut across. When you go to university, you meet people from all walks of life. Then they went to hometown, stronghold, Eldoret. Kipchumba Murkomen.
That appears to have made you very happy.
He was shown the door at that festival. And now I don't know who mobilized Kikuyus into that place, if it's just Kikuyus who are saying Ruto must go. There are people in this panel who believe that it's just Kikuyus who are saying Ruto must go.
Fanya,
so I think somebody mobilized people to Eldoret and told them Kipchumba is coming, so just heckle him. And that's a very good sign. I have always told this administration, they bang their chests and say they quelled the Gen Z's demos. What they don't know is that Gen Zs went into a period of recruiting people to believe in what they believe. The number of people who disliked Ruto in in June of this year, when Parliament was being invaded, has doubled, if not tripled, by now. Because you've seen what's happening in Mambo, you've seen what's happening in all parts of the country. You see even what's happening to Jichopevu. Who would have thought Jichopevu would have been heckled in Mombasa? And it's a good place to be, that Kenya Kwanza is being reminded left, right, and center that you are sitting there. The only thing keeping you in power is the Constitution. That people left you a long time ago. They don't support your administration. They are not with you. They don't care what you think. You are only there because the guns and the bullets and the boots can keep you there. Otherwise, moral authority to govern is lost. And I'm happy when it happens in Eldoret, because it sends a very strong message to Kipchumba Murkomen that these people are not brought here by Rigiji because they believe Rigiji was all the source of their problems. Now Rigiji is not causing problems in clubs in Eldoret and in all universities across the country and in Mombasa. You guys said he's only a regional kingpin, but he's the one who's causing problems in Mombasa. So I'm happy that that happened. But also as part of my weekend is we got to see the number of things that are happening within Kenya Kwanza and the discomforts. I saw them at that tournament in Mombasa, and I saw how hard the president is trying to explain what they are doing, and that's a very good place to be. Because when you find yourself trying to explain everything you're doing, then it means you are doing nothing.
Now, Fanya Mambo, one can argue that in fact within the last 2 years, Kenya Kwanza has made very good progress. They've achieved a number of signature events. Yeah,
yes, they
good
have.
Progress. Yeah, I like the way you're acquiescing to it. But would you say that the challenge has been policy communication? Like for instance, if you're talking about the healthcare reforms, if successfully implemented, then the burden of healthcare would be lifted off the shoulders of Mora, Wairimo, Wanjiro, and Alima. The issue of affordable housing and all these kind of things. So there have been fundamental reforms, and one can argue that the biggest challenge has been policy communications.
No, there's been fundamental upheaval. Let me tell you, I was in Murang'a on Wednesday. I've never heard Irungu Kangata speak of Kangata Care. I heard it from the people of Murang'a. He came up with a health scheme for Murang'a County that is working so successfully. The people of Murang'a don't even care about Chief Shah and that other thing. They are so concerned about having registered for Kangata Care because it is paying for their bills and they are seeing it to work. When the Kenya Kwanza administration does their work, nobody will come and say, we are doing this. It is the Wananchi who will say, I went to hospital and she paid for me. Shah paid for me. It is the hospital proprietors. I don't think the church is lying when they are saying the government owes us money. The government is not giving us money. We are not able to run our hospitals. So you have this insane government that is telling you SHIF is working. And then you have the stakeholders who are telling you, where is it working? The media has been careful enough to shoot videos of people queuing in hospitals and paying directly for cancer treatment from their pockets and paying directly for kidney dialysis from their pockets. And then you have an insane person telling you SHIF is working. Whom do you listen to? You go to a hospital right now and people are telling you in Murang'a, I wish people can go to Murang'a. Murang'a is a success story. I never thought I would speak this highly of a UDA elected governor. But Kangata is doing his job. And it's not Kangata. I have never seen him on TV saying we have done, tumetenga, tumetengua, tumeimplement. No. Kangata is quiet. But the people of Murang'a are telling you there is something new called Kangata Care, and it is working for us. That they have changed from something very simple, from collecting money manually in the hospitals to having a digital system of collecting money. And it has changed 100-fold within a month. So let the Kenya Kwanza administration shut up. We don't want to see them even before cameras. We don't want to see them communicating. Let them get feedback from Kenyans. If they do stuff that works, it's Kenyans who will talk about it. People always talk about Kibaki roads. People are now talking about Uhuru roads. But the only thing they talk about Kenya Kwanza is Kenya Kwanza lies. And this is where we have the problem. So don't tell us what we are doing. We are tired. We don't want to hear. Can you fire all your bloggers? They are useless. And let Kenyans be the ones to tell you what they see from what they experience.
Actually, in my view, Governor Kangata has done extremely well.
Yeah.
He is among the rare governors, especially on the issue raised about digitization to collect revenue, seal all loopholes. He's done extremely well, and FiresideKE is a huge success. The only challenge is that he is using taxpayer resources to implement this FiresideKE and is branding using his name. You know, we spoke about it.
Fair enough. What is Kenya Kwanza at the top doing? Branding, they change a logo there. You know, the sheaf, the N. I told you the cost of changing the N to the S.
But the chairman called you out on that, eh?
But that's what it cost. His explanation here ended up still that they're going to spend their 104 billion. Either way. So, Kangata, we don't care. By the way, we are okay if he puts a billboard because it's working. These others are branding things that are not working.
Now, Kevin, you know, I use Kevin in reference because you're a confirmed Catholic.
I will go to restrain you from calling me Kevin.
To get orders. Now, Fanya Mambo has indicated that for the last 2 years, Kenya Kwanza scores an A in lying. That for the last 2 years, you've been sleeping under a mango tree and you've done absolutely nothing. And if you had done anything, you would be feeling the impact in his bucket.
You know, as time goes on, you quickly learn that Fanya Mambo will never have anything good to say about the government of the Republic of Kenya.
Said something good about a new DA governor.
No. We are talking about
National government.
The national government. The UDA governor comes from Murang'a, and you know why you are talking like that. You know, Kenyans had been taught to sing Moi must go, then they took a break of 20 years, and then they have learned again to sing Ruto must go. And you see, when you tell me that something happened in Eldoret, and that is not where Rigiji comes from, I wanted to remind you that even me, if I wanted to be believable, that I am really not tribal, I would go and cause mayhem in Murang'a, buy a few people, because they will take money and do what I have told them to do, and they will do it. So there are enough people in Eldoret willing to do anything for a fee. It has happened before. It can happen again. It has always happened. The people who are anti-President William Ruto in this country are not small people. They are people who have looted resources of this country, and they have the money to use to do that. They have the money to use to discredit President William Ruto. But I can also promise them they are in for a long-haul battle. It is going to the wire. When you come here and praise FiresideKE, I do agree with you, it is working. But it began over a year ago. We just launched this one, and this is much bigger. This is 47 times bigger than FiresideKE, and it is going to take time before it smoothens out. So give President William Ruto time. Actually, it took 1 year for people to begin to see that FiresideKE is working. Probably, this one being 47 times larger, we probably need 46. More time. Okay, 46 times larger. No, times is 47. Plus is 6. So, it is within a matter of time. Already for me, I'm seeing very good responses for the users of the shift. Very good responses. So let us just give President William Ruto time to have his pet project work. That President William Ruto has to explain things. It is a good thing. It is not a bad thing. It is a good thing because his detractors have insisted they want to know and they want to understand. And the president has become humble enough to explain to the ordinary folk what he's doing, how he's doing, and what they should expect out of it. So let us give the president enough time. I know there are people who believe only them can govern this country. People like William Ruto and the rest are not people who can govern a country like this where there are forefathers found. But let me tell you, Kenya is for us all, and we are going to be here in it, sharing our resources equally and equitably, the presidency included.
Is Kenya Kwanza having a policy communication challenge?
I don't think so. In fact, let me first of all respond to my good friend Fanya Mambo. Opposition will always be there. I mean, there'll always be people who don't share the same perspective as the government of the day. I'll take you back to Margaret Thatcher. When she came in when under similar circumstances to Kenya, when the UK was deeply in recession, and she instituted reforms that were very, very painful. So painful that some people never even forgave her, even when she passed on. I remember somebody commenting and saying that she was the Iron Lady and that she should rest in peace. Yet, it is arguably said that Margaret Thatcher was one of Britain's best prime ministers ever. Best prime ministers ever, but to date, there are people who still have never forgiven them because of the painful austerity measures that she instituted. Now, this is what people need to realize, that Kenya Kwanza came in under what I would call in extremis. That is, under very difficult circumstances. The country was in debt, and it was headed towards debt default. I've mentioned before that there are countries that went the debt default route, and they've really paid for it. We have Ghana, we have Malawi, we have Zambia on the continent, we have even Ethiopia. And the debt default is not a good place for any citizen to be. So the first and foremost thing, just to tell the skeptics that, to prove to the skeptics that the government is actually working, is the fact that bigger economies than ours, Ethiopia is bigger than ours, who have gone into debt default because of taking populist measures. Whereas we are different. We've not gone into debt default. We've actually stepped off debt default, and we are turning around and moving forward. Then again, when you talk about Kangata and Kangata Care and the success of it, I will remind detractors that Kangata came in with an overwhelming majority as governor, and he has never had opposition. We've never seen people running around the streets with placards saying Kangata must go. We've never seen people saying that Kangata was not duly elected. President Ruto came in through a slim majority, but he was duly elected, and his election was ratified by the courts. But he was never even given time to settle. I mean, there were people complaining, grousing, running left, right, and center, saying we have to have mandamano so that this illegitimate president, in quotes, must go. Barely 6 months after being sworn in, there are those disruptions. And you know what these disruptions do? They cause you to lose your momentum. So 6 months, there are disruptions. Then this year, again, there are disruptions. If you want President Ruto to work, allow him to work uninterrupted. If you don't want him to explain things to you, for God's sake, shut up and let him work. Stop putting him to task every time to explain what is happening. Then when he explains, you turn around and complain and say, this is a president who's over-explaining himself. What do you really want? Let the president work. Give him time. His mandate is 5 years. He is basically not even halfway through his mandate. Allow him to settle down, to work, and to deliver. Then ask him to account to the people after 5 years. In fact, the way you ask him is either by, the way you gauge him is either by re-electing him when he's successful or sending him home. What is so difficult with waiting 5 years? Why the rabble-rousing?
Well, as we wait for 5 years, Leonard Khafafa is of the opinion that no interruptions, the president should be given time to work. And the last couple of days, we've seen a few members of the ODM being more royal than royalty. You've seen Junet Mohamed and Opiyo and I trying to explain some of the successes of the broad-based administration. What is your primary take on that?
Number one, you think you have a monopoly of disruptions. So the government wants to come and disrupt my budget, but they don't want me to disrupt the administration. You wake up and say that you're increasing the cost of pampers for parents, pads, even bread. And people tell you, this is my salary. Wait a minute, we are not going to allow you to do that. Then you shoot us with bullets and guns in the name of trying to pass a finance bill that is disrupting our lives. So it is okay for Kenya Kwanza to disrupt our lives, but we cannot disrupt the administration. I have news for you. As long as you continue disrupting our lives, we will disrupt your administration properly and squarely. Because you cannot think that every time you want new houses, my salary. Every time you don't know, you want to do a note to appoint CASs, some rubbish that we had said we don't want, my salary. They were looking for money to do all sorts of things that we were not interested in. And they plan for our income. And when we tell them you're disrupting our lives, that's like government causing maandamano on my salary. That's how I want them to look at it. They're only saying that we are causing maandamano on their streets. By the way, they are our streets, they are not yours, US government. So you can't wake up and disrupt our lives, and you want us to keep quiet about it. We shall disrupt your administration. So if you manage our lives well, we will manage your administration well, and we'll give you peace. So we are not going to give you peace and keep quiet so that you can start taking up to 65% of our salary, and then we are supposed to clap for you. Then you go and decide that we have debt. So it's plan for your debt without planning for my salary. I don't keep coming to plan for your administration. When you're renovating State House and buying new furniture, have you ever had me coming to tell you that you don't need new furniture? Go plan for new furniture, but not from my budget. So it is Kenya Kwanza that started by disrupting the lives of Kenyans. And Kenyans reacted. Now they are saying disruption is only unfair if it's affecting them. Now, Joho, Junet. First, Joho needs to realize that he's not an elected leader right now. He was elected. We respect that. He is not elected right now. So he's talking down at Kenyans as who? You're telling a 21, 22-year-old what to do with their gadget. You've lowered yourself from a CS to a person who is fighting with young people over what they're posting on their TikTok. When they find someone they like, they celebrate them. They are celebrating Omtata right now. They are celebrating Matiang'i for what he did then. Why don't you do good so that people can celebrate you for good? This is a person who started by spending 1.6 billion to count fish. Hata hajaituambia hizo samaki ni ngapi na ziko wapi na ni ngapi colored na it was a lot of nonsense. So you start by wasting 1.6 billion to count fish. I wish they spent that money setting up fish ponds. We have a deficit of fish. We actually import fish. 1.6 billion, if you try to divide by about 50 or 60,000, you'd have had so many. You would have had so many fish ponds that would have helped so many young people. But they didn't create fish ponds. They were counting fish. And then he's here telling young people what to do with their phones and that they should stop being on social media. I'll tell you what is threatening Joho. You know, the few meetings they've had in Coast have been very expensive for them. Joho is coming from the 205 referendum mentality, where for them to bring down the 205 constitutional bill, they would have a meeting in Narok, mobilize people, have another meeting in Kakamega, have another meeting in Mombasa. And those meetings were very expensive. That is why the 205 referendum was very expensive. And that's what they were planning to do in 2027. But they find a young man who does a 2-minute TikTok about the ills of Kenya Kwanza administration. That TikTok has got 2 million views. It has got 400,000 comments. It has got 60,000 shares. And about another 100,000 people have added it to favorites. And in the comments, out of those 400,000, about 300,000 I'm saying ready to vote, wherever you're going to vie, whichever seat. Fanya Mambo seated here will do a TikTok and it will have in excess of 300,000 views. You can go check my TikTok. And it will have more than 40,000 people taking time to comment. And many of them saying, vie for a seat in Nairobi, will vote for you. Now, this guy wanted us. We dropped finance bill without a single rally. We went into our social media spaces. We would hold X-Space meetings of 96,000 people. That's 2 stadia. Without spending the resources they've been grabbing and stealing all over the country that they will use in the next election. And then we bring down a finance bill by organizing demos in 34 counties without having to have physical meetings and without having mobilization money. What Joho is afraid of is what will happen to them in 2027. Because men and women who never planned rallies, men and women who never had mobilization money, men and women who never had Land Cruisers with speakers on top will get parliamentary, Senate, and even governor seats. And that is worrying them deeply. That's why they are fighting us on social media. They have a problem with with the fact that a young person can do more on social media, and for him to do the same, he needs to spend a lot of millions to put people in Kongowea market and to come and address them, and to mobilize people for the president to come and address them in Mombasa. So we will not take this lying down. This is our space. You're a national leader. If you called the media, they'll come to you. Sisi atuna hiyo. Ile tuko nayo ni TikTok. Tuko na Facebook. Tuko na. We will speak on that space, and there's nothing they're going to do. Junet Mohammed, you may be elected, but remember one thing. We thought that you are supposed to be in opposition, and you're supposed to be oversighting this administration that is mistreating your own people. When you start speaking louder than Kimani Ichung'wah, we look at you and worry deeply. And I'm happy. I thank God for Edwin Sifuna. He's one person who I don't know whether he's going to survive with his brain in ODM, because now he's overthinking. He's coming and telling people in ODM, you're doing wrong. And for him, as a person who is inside to see that they are doing wrong, then Sifuna is a brilliant person. Again, I say he's in ODM. I have never campaigned for ODM candidates, but when you do good, we celebrate you. So let them run. But once they're done, President akatuambia tuko na mapepo as I finish. Ati hatujaienda airport. But the young people are beginning to plan a new demonstration. And they're saying we are not going to even throw stones. We just take an Uber, 5 of us, we go to the airport. We take photos, we say tumefika airport. If we have to take 300,000 Ubers and just go to airport and make sure that every young person, if the qualification for us to be able to speak about our airport is going to the airport. Young people are saying we can afford Uber fare. Tunapool Uber watu watano, tunaenda airport, tunapiga picha. Hakuna kuharibu chochote. We even pay the entrance fee, and we pay the fee when you're exiting for parking. Just to take photos there and share on internet and say we've been to the airport and now we are qualified to talk about the airport. So if that's the qualification, I know people who are even planning to hire a tour van. You just say today we are going for a tour to the airport. And you go in, you go through security. Hakuna kusumbua mtu. We're not even, nile tu bendera yetu, na iPhone, na maji ya kunywa. As a tourist, you go to the airport, you take photos, and we post all over. And we tell Kenyans, you know what? We've been to the airport. And now we are qualified to speak about the airport. If the qualification for us to speak about the airport is being here, then we are going to go there. So let us be very careful. They thought that demonstrations is going to be on the street. I have told young people, we are not going there.
Are you running for political office 2027?
Yes, I am.
For which seat?
I'll tell you this. Because I like being very candid. Initially, I was going to offer myself for Senate Nairobi. But the people of Dagoretti, where I come from, approached me and asked me and told me, MP mwenye tulipea kazi tutafuta kazi. Na tumeamua na kura zetu tutakupatia kiti ya Dagoretti South. These are men and women I respect so much because they are community elders. They are not just, And then the young people have told me the same, and the women have told me the same. That should I offer myself for Dagoretti South, they would vote for me. I have accepted that call, but I keep listening. Should Kenyans feel that I would serve them in another capacity, I will accept the calling. But let it be remembered, it's not about me. I'm not offering myself for leadership. No. I am preparing a way for us to have good leadership and governance in this country. And should Kenyans even tell me, Fanya, Mambo, we don't want you to occupy any seat, I will respect them. I will never force myself on people. But yes, Dagoretti South, I have for now accepted. I have said yes, and I'm listening to them. And I pray that God will get us to where he would want us to be for this country. Yeah, and if God wants me to be a nobody in this country, I'll never force myself on the throats of people. It is a country that needs good leadership. Good leadership doesn't have to be me. I know I can offer good leadership, but it doesn't have to be me. It will be someone that God and people feel is the right person.
Thank you for that clarity. Now, there's been a lot of cases, Owidi, that we need to increase salaries for teachers, for healthcare workers, for literally everybody in Kenya. And for the government to do that, then it has to raise taxation. It appears that there is a disconnect among majority of Kenyans, because when the lecturers go on strike, they say they want more money. Medical doctors say they want more money. But they do not understand how you're going to raise the resources. Is there not a contradiction there? And then number two, what do you make of ODM's position within Kenya Kwanza administration?
There are many things now I need to talk about. But today you have made me understand why Fanya Mambo has been behaving the way he does. The voter out there is inherently a very selfish person. When you go to Luland, they see Kenya in terms of Luland. When you go to Kikuyu land, they see Kenya in terms of Kikuyu land. They never imagine the other people who live beyond the horizons, who speak a different language, but they are also Kenyans. Now, Fanya Mambo, like every other politicians, have chosen to misuse that to get his votes. Well and good, you will get those votes. But I also want you to, at some times, talk about inflation and tell Kenyans inflation has been reduced from 9.6 to 2.7 under President William Ruto. Tell Kenyans that the dollar rate came down from 160 to 130. Tell Kenyans that the Kenyans' debts are now being paid regularly. Also remind Kenyans that we collect slightly over 2.6 trillion and we give 1.1 to paying debts, 400 billion to the counties, and ministries like education, army and all that. Education alone takes 600 billion. So let Kenyans know that the money we have may not be enough to do the salary rises that you are talking to me about, unless we do something about how we pay taxes. We may increase, we may spread the band, we may include more people, we may be more strict with tax defaulters, but we need more money to meet Kenyans' financial demands. You are talking about ODM's position in the party. This is going to also take me to people who are talking about Wandai, Mbadi are now defending the government. That doesn't need to be asked because they are now in government. We have to distinguish between the government of the Republic of Kenya and the ruling party, UDA, and the minority party, ODM and its allies. We need to distinguish that. But many politicians choose to make Kenyans believe that UDA and the government is one and the same thing. And if Wandai and Mbadi are now defending the government of the day, they are actually defending UDA. Far from it. If they will defend UDA, it will be in future. But for now, they are defending the government in which they are part of, the government they are working for, the government they are serving. You cannot go and be part of the government and then still oppose it. How is that even possible? So let us be clear in what we disseminate out there to the people. These people have not declared themselves members of UDA, but they have rubbed it in again and again that now they are the part of the government of the Republic of Kenya. A government which is now using a constitution which does not even have opposition and government. Anyway, we have majority and minority. When you say that because President William Ruto has disrupted the lives of Kenyans and so on, there are two things you need to remember. One, President William Ruto is administering Kenya. It is administration of the Republic of Kenya, of which you are part of. So when you interfere with it, when you interrupt it, you are actually interrupting yourself, your future, and the future of your children. So let us also get that very clearly. So when we say we are disrupting lives, you are disrupting your own lives. And we must also remember the role of leaders. Leaders are those people who identifies the problems of their people, the problems of society, and prescribe and implement solutions before those problems become a danger to society. And that is what President William Ruto, when President William Ruto realized that the debt levels are not only rising, but also expanding by way of interest, he decided that he must prescribe a solution. The solution may be painful because a dangerous disease requires a dangerous treatment. That is what happens. So what President William Ruto is trying is to treat Kenyans' problems, but Kenyans are not willing. They have chosen to behave sometimes like children. But I don't blame them because there is somebody there who believes he can use this, just like inciting a child who is crying because he's seen a doctor come in. You can incite a child until a child rebels against the mother who is trying to solve his disease problems. This is what we are doing here. But I can also tell you, you are in for the long haul. President William Ruto, like any other president of the Republic of Kenya, must be accepted and must be let to solve the problems of this country. And then we will evaluate him at the correct time, not now. But I also had Fanya Mambo calling my minister as counting fish. Honestly, I think that you went too far. But nevertheless, I know why you are talking like that, because you know the people of Dagoretti South are watching. So even when you talk about telling people what to do with their funds, you know, it sounds logical, it sounds nice to the ears. But remember, that phone is a weapon. It is a very dangerous tool, just like a gun and any other thing. We may have to insist on that. What you do with it does not destroy this country. What you do with it does not slow down the growth and development in this country. So that is why when I had the minister tell the youth what to do with their phone that will lead this country to prosperity, I gave him a thumbs up. But nevertheless, that is the route you have chosen, because that is what you believe the people of Dagoretti South want to hear. They will vote for you. About the demos, I've seen you are very happy about these demos. They used the demos to single-handedly bring down the finance bill. I want to remind you, these demos were funded, organized by people who believe it is only them who can govern this country. We are in this for the long haul. We will fight to the very end. The work of the opposition is not just to oppose. So when you say Junet is supposed to be in the opposition, so he's not supposed to say what he's saying. Junet was very clear, and I like the way he selects his words. He says, when there is nothing wrong to oppose, we don't oppose. But if you are going to be in the opposition for the sake of it, because you believe that people vote for you easily, when you have somebody to tell them is the devil, when you have somebody to oppose, when you pretend to be fighting for them when there's nothing to fight for, that is also good for you, because you will get elected. But you can't just oppose for the sake of it. Oppose when it is something to oppose. Because, after all, it is good to oppose when you present your alternative idea onto the table. That President William Ruto, even though you want to pay the external taxes of this country and you are trying to expand your tax base, this is the better option. I have discovered oil here, and this is how we are going to use this oil to pay that. But if you have no other way, and you come to oppose the only way we have, I think we are not going to allow you. We are in this thing for the long haul. So, but there is a man you spoke about called Sifuna, who is suddenly your favorite. Sifuna is suffering from the jealousy he suffered, because Sifuna had believed if he was not going to be made the deputy party leader, he was also going to be made a CS. This is Sifuna's problem. But I want to remind Sifuna, you are elected by ODM votes. If ODM is happy that their sons are in government, you can be sure you will also have trouble going forward. So, and I also know Sifuna has had a lot of personal problems with the person of John Mbadi. I have noticed he has also jumped onto Opiyo Wandayi. That's fine. They can keep fighting. But I want to tell him, ODM is happy being in government. So if that is what you want to fight, you had better get out of ODM now and get to another political party. You can join us in UDA. But ODM is happy with that. They have been out of this. They have been out of government since it was formed. They have never been in. This time round, President William Ruto has welcomed them in with 2 arms. So to stop telling us things about MOU, agreement, such things don't work here. Because I've seen even people whose mothers were found by the riverside having gone to fetch water and pulled into a home and made wives, and they were born of it, still complaining that marriages only succeed when they are agreements. No. Marriages succeed when there is love and trust. President William Ruto now trusts these people he has put in his government. He now loves them, and they have returned equal measure. And they are performing very well. In fact, now, there is now somebody who can explain what is happening at the Treasury. When we had Njuguna Ndung'u, we didn't know what was going on there. We didn't know what was being signed there. We didn't know what the policies and actions of that ministry was going to help Kenya with. Today, we have somebody who is transparent enough who can come out and tell Kenyans the truth as it is. That thing about John Mbadi is exciting me, because he has very good answers for detractors, very good answers for naysayers, very good answers for skeptics, and they are logical, and he fears nobody. In fact, he has talked, sometimes I'm wondering, is he really talking with the blessing of the president? But sometimes the truth is beautiful, because you don't need to remember what you said, because you will still say the truth, and it will fall in place.
And it will set you free. Now, Leonard, there is it appears like the people are having a challenge understanding the difference between government, Kenya Kwanza, UDA, ODM, and all these political parties. And sometimes it comes from members of the National Assembly and Senate. When you have a member of the National Assembly or Senate saying that he's not in government, he's in a leadership position, and he's got a GK car, is paid by the Parliamentary Service Commission. Is this that people do not understand, or they deliberately ignore facts for purposes of propaganda?
I'm not surprised about the shallowness of the understanding of some Kenyans. And before I even delve into what you're saying, I just need to address Fanya Mambo on
over his candidacy.
On a couple of things that he has shown a bit, a lack of depth in a couple of things. First off, I'll say congratulations for your bid for the Greater South. I think you'll be a worthwhile MP, Member of Parliament. You're articulate and you're very passionate about your people. So congratulations about that. And second, congratulations because you also seem to have gotten a youthful constituency. Your constituency is more youthful than anything else. And for that, congratulations, because we have youth bulge in this country, and anyone who captures the hearts and minds of the youth has some future in the politics of this country. So congratulations to that end. But you need to educate your constituency. You need to tell them facts as they are. And the first and foremost thing that you should let them know is that payment of tax is a civic responsibility. It is not a collection taken up for the benefit of William Ruto and his family. It is not a collection taken up for the benefit of the ruling party, Kenya Kwanza. It is a civic responsibility. The government of the day governs at the behest of citizens. This is a democracy, and you know what a democracy is. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. When a finance bill is presented before Parliament, it is for the people, by the people, and it is of the people. It is not for William Ruto, nor is it for his family. So there must be that distinction. The other thing that Fanya Mambo needs to talk to his constituency about, because they are totally misinformed. Many of them are ignoramuses. He needs to tell them that sorry, I lost my thought a little bit. But he needs to tell them that taxes, when a government takes debt, it is tax. It is tax in advance. Any debt taken by government is tax in advance. When we take debt today, that debt will be paid from tax revenues in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It is debt in advance. So the taxes that are being collected today are not being collected to service debt that was incurred by William Ruto. These are taxes that are being taken to service debt that was taken up by Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee administration. So that is something that he needs to learn. Yeah? It's not for William Ruto's pleasure. In fact, William Ruto has no pleasure whatsoever in collecting taxes to service debt. We took debt 10 years ago. In fact, that is when Fanya Mambo should have been active then. When we were active, because I was active from 2017, cautioning on the perils of of debt. I'm on record as having cautioned that we were headed towards debt distress because our debt to GDP was breaching the bounds of propriety. We were at the acceptable level at the time was 60%, and we were in breach of that. I think we were headed way beyond 60%. By the time President Kenyatta was leaving, debt to GDP was at 68%. So the time for Fanya Mambo to have been very active talking about debt, talking about finance bills, interrogating finance bills, was then, not now. Now is too late. The horse has bolted. We have taken debt, we must pay debt. Dawa ya deni ni kulipa.
So Leonard, are you suggesting that since Fanya Mambo, assuming that your last part of the statement is accurate, because he didn't speak about public debt 5 years ago, he can't speak about public debt today. He holds his peace.
He cannot criticize efforts that have been made to stop us from debt default. He cannot, not with all sincerity, not with any good conscience. He has no suggestions to offer. What suggestions can you possibly offer outside of tax measures to pay the debt that there is? There's absolutely nothing. Debt is paid from taxes. We don't have any other form of revenue by which you can pay debt. Unless he tells us that there is this revenue that the government can magically spring up left, right, and center that can enable us to service our external debt. Not even external debt alone, internal debt as well, domestic debt. Where is this revenue?
Are you not frustrating his freedom of expression? But Fanya Mambo, go ahead. I understand that you need ice cubes because you didn't speak about this issue 10 years ago.
Number one, I am here today speaking about the things that affect our lives as Kenyans today. Our good friend here started by telling us that we should be speaking about inflation. And I dare tell them, sometimes you people take credit for things you shouldn't take credit for. One thing that happened, you know that towards the last 3 years of the Uhuru administration, there were no rains. We all know that. We lived here. So the rains came. And the first thing that sprouted from the ground was grass. So are they going to take credit for the grass and say, oh, clap for Kenya Kwanza, we gave fertilizer for the grass? No. The grass sprouted. And the first effect of a lot of grass was that the cattle had a lot of milk. So the first glut we experienced in this country was milk glut. So is Kenya Kwanza going to clap for themselves and say, since we took over, the prices of milk have gone down? When Uhuru left, milk was going at 65 a packet in the supermarket. Right now, it's about 54, 55 thereabout. But Kenya Kwanza shouldn't take credit for that. They didn't grow the grass. They had no fertilizer for the grass. It's just God gave us grass. There was a huge supply of milk compared to the demand. There was a lot of glut. It was all over the news. Milk was being poured. It was unfortunate. It's sad. I wish we can turn it into powder. I wish we can find ways to store our milk and stop losing it, because the drought is coming, and I pray it doesn't come, but they're saying it's going to come. They're saying there'll be a La Nina next year. And if it does happen, then we shall start wishing we never poured the milk again. So let's not take credit for things we haven't done. Around the same time, what happens? If grass is growing that fast, people rush to plant sukuma wiki and cabbages. Right now, a cabbage is going for 3 shillings. A whole cabbage, 3 shillings. I was watching it on some TV station last night and I could feel the pain of the farmers. Why? The supply of the cabbage is higher than the demand for the cabbage. In fact, when you go to Kinangop, never go and say nataka nyama na cabbage at 20 bob, because they might end up putting 6 cabbages in that meat. Just say I want meat and some little, because yes, cabbage at 20 bob means 6 cabbages, and maybe there was just half a kg of meat.
What of unga?
So that cabbage did not flourish because Kenya Kwanza gave fertilizer.
What of unga?
I'll come to unga. The same rain that grew the grass affected the maize. It's common sense. I mean, there was grass. The rain was not choosing that it's not going to help the maize. It's going to help only the grass. So what happened is, again, the same rain affected the production of maize positively. And we had a lot more maize than we would have wished to. I wish you could speak to maize farmers. Ironically, at this point in time is when they've sold maize for the cheapest price. That's why when unga comes to 150, the person who bears the brunt of unga going to 150 is the farmer. Why? Because we all oversupply. If you look at what happens in this country, there is a season unasikianga tomato iko chini. Afu kuna time tomato inauzwa the same price na apple, 25 shillings per tomato. Why? Because when the factors of production are good, and in Kenya mainly it's the rain, everybody goes and plants tomatoes. And then when they flood the market, sasa unakuta nyanya 15 bob. As in, the cost of tomatoes goes down drastically. A tomato is now 2 shillings and it was 25 shillings. That's a huge percentage difference. You'll still hear Kenya Kwanza taking credit for the price of tomatoes going down, yet there was not specific intervention for tomatoes. So the rains come and they don't choose which crop they will make grow faster and in plenty and in abundance. Right now, even onions are very cheap. There's a lot of onion. Again, Kenya Kwanza wants to take credit for that and say, oh, inflation has gone down. Sukuma wiki will grow. In fact, sahi ukienda Ocha, mpaka ile inaitwa terere and the ageti has grown. So will Kenya Kwanza take credit for that? Because when someone who would have bought sukuma wiki in the market finds that terere has grown naturally at home because it grows when it rains, they take this kienyeji mboga and they don't buy the commercial one. So the demand for the commercial one is lower, the price goes down. So let them not take credit and tell us here things about inflation that we know. What else will bring down inflation? You've noticed that the consumption of fuel in this country has gone lower than the amount of fuel we are consuming then. Why? Because if the demand for these things has gone down, which countries are going to ferry them to where? Ziko kwa shamba, I swear. Right now, go to Kinangop or Limuru or anywhere, just say you want cabbages. You leave the pickup. They are saying, ata ngombe itaki cabbage nakata. So the vehicle that would have been fueled to transport this to Marikiti is not being fueled to transport to Marikiti. So what happens? So inflation will go down, and Kenya Kwanza will bang their chests and preach on TV how inflation has gone. It has gone down because God has allowed it to go down. Now, let's continue. They talked about IBC. My generation, the millennials and the people below us, have told Kenya Kwanza and all those guys there, I don't know, bread-based government, I don't know, Kenya Kula, Kenya Kuisha, whoever they are, go get us 9 commissioners. We are so tribeless, we don't care. You can literally get them from your own village. We will still beat you at these elections. The people who are progressive thinking are telling you, when you hear KU, JKUAT, every other university telling you, he must go, squeeze at anaitwa, he must go. They are telling you that even if he vied alone, he would be number 2. If he vied alone, he will become number 2.
He will be number 1.
That person is bound to lose anyway. So go get 9 commissioners who can be your cousins. We don't care. They can even be part of your family. Kenyans don't care. We will beat this administration down. As the Kenyans who are progressive thinking, whether they have 9 commissioners from their village or brothers and sisters, we will beat them. Because the votes will be too many against them for them to be able to steal. And the good thing is when you have a loyal person counting the votes for you and telling you, mukubwa ni kubaya, easy because there are too many, it will be a shame, it will be bad. So let them have loyal people. You know, if they have people who they can second guess, they will say they were used to by Gachagua and a few other. You know, this is one administration that has had a habit of blaming everybody. When they came in, they blamed empty coffers. They've never taken blame for anything. When they were done, they started blaming Uhuru. Uhuru had to leave the country to give them space. Wakakosa Uhuru wakablame Gachagua. Gachagua went, they blamed Ford Foundation. Ford Foundation went, now they are blaming Mapepo. Some invisible things that we cannot touch or feel or see. Mapepo ndio inasumbua Kenya Kwanza. They have never gotten to a point where they said, wait a minute, what are we to blame for?
Now, talking about IBC, who takes the technical liability for failure to constitute IBC?
Let me tell you. Can you imagine parliamentarians telling Wanjiku that Kalonzo is the problem, Ruto is the problem, Raila is the problem? To Kenyans, all of you are political class. And Wanjiku has got no power to constitute IBC. So whoever you are, go put your house together, give us IBC.
No, but speaking as a lawyer, can you locate the problem so that now the same Wanjiku understands where the problem is located, where the problem is today?
The problem is these horrible things called political parties in this country, which basically are shops that are used to win elections and then they change color. Apart from ODM, that I must give credit to, that it has been a party for a long time. I'm not saying they're democratic, but at least it has existed for a long time. Most of these other ones, they change color every other election. Those are the people who are feeling entitled, that we must have somebody there. Man, if you are losing, you are losing. If you are winning, you are winning. I mean, the trust should be, people should be focusing on winning wananchi who will give them votes. So Kenyans, you know, sometimes I refuse, and it's not in a bad way. I refuse to speak as a lawyer because what you're doing is you're telling Kenyans a dilemma that they can do nothing about. So if I told Kenyans the problem is Kalonzo or is Ruto, what do you want Kenyans to do? Beat up Kalonzo, beat up Ruto, beat up Raila? No. Kenyans don't want to know who the problem is. What Kenyans deserve is an IBC. And I can tell you the problem is political parties collectively, because each of them feels entitled to have someone sitting there. They think that by having someone sitting there, their meager votes as a party will increase. If they are poor, if you don't have votes, you don't have votes. Having your own commissioner there will not change that. Focus on enticing Kenyans and winning their trust and love, and it will not matter who is commissioner. Let me finish. Someone was telling us that tax payment is not to the benefit of the Kenya Kwanza, it's for all Kenyans. Just the other day, I was on TV shouting and yelling and saying that we are collecting money. And I gave the example of a city hopper driver whom you employ, but you only pay the driver, you don't pay his wife. But we have a situation where now it's become very unique that we can vote for one person, and then a person we never voted for, we give 700 million, and it was okay. And we raised noise about it, and they stopped that nonsense of paying 700 million to the first ladies. These are people we never voted for. We never told you who your wife will be. We didn't care whether you are married or not. We didn't vote for you because you are married. Why are you coming to tell us to give your wife 700 million? And the deputy president 700 million. And then another prime CS, an illegal constitution opposition, was getting 500 million. So this was a total of 1.9 billion going to people you should never have gone to. So what did we do? We made noise about it. We made noise about renovation of State House. We made noise about wastage of our resources before we talk about everything else. When they were fighting to ile shida ilikuwa hapa ya housing kubwa, these guys were trying to raise 70 billion. Then the control of budget comes and says that year, 2023-2024, they spent 139 billion as a country on travel, leisure, accommodation, hotels, and all that rubbish. Why waste money on travel and leisure and accommodation, 139 billion, and then struggle to disturb Kenyans to raise 70 billion to put up some avoidable houses? So just get rid of the avoidable houses. Avoidable, you can avoid them. So what we told Kenyans was no. What Kenya Kwanza should have looked for is 1 billion. You add to the 139 that you are spending on leisure. You'd have had 140. You'll build double the number of houses. You will come na tusumbua huku na salaries zetu. So it's not that we don't want to pay taxes. It's just that we are paying taxes to people who are blind and unreasonable, completely and totally incapable of seeing that they are making horrible mistakes. And we keep reminding them, wait a minute, 139 billion on travel, and it's your own government. Auditor General anatupatia reports anasema 139 billion hii mwaka imetumwa kuzurura. And then 70 billion ndio mnatuua muokote mtujengea avoidable houses. So just cancel this wastage and add $1 billion and you're good to go. So if the government was telling us we've removed this 139 that we were wasting on some funny jets za marafiki kwenda US, and now we just need 1 billion from you, we'll do houses at 140. Kenyans would clap for them. But the reason we are fighting them is that they are completely blind. Finally, at the time when we were giving first ladies 700 million per first lady, and I want Kenyans to do this maths. A year has 365 days. It's something close to 2 million shillings per first lady per day. It doesn't make sense. The same time there were floods. And I remember the president in gumboots. I want you to remember that image of him in gumboots in Mathare. When he promised families they will get 10,000 shillings each, 4,000 families. So he was willing to spend 400 million on 4,000 families to give them 10,000 each to relocate them permanently from what they called riverbeds, 10,000. But his wife, his own wife, was going to get 700 million that year. And another 700 million the following year, and the following year, and the following year. Then you tell us we are supposed to pay taxes happily. We can't. If affordable housing by that time if affordable housing was doing good by that time, we told him, Mukomadare, you're telling people, and they speak with two sides of the mouth. They were telling people, hey, by the time tunamaliza hii mwaka, we shall have 5,000 houses. Allocate those 5,000 houses to these people that you've demolished houses for. But you're busy telling them, we'll give you 10,000 shillings a piece, but we shall give our own wives 700 million, including 500 million for a wife of a person who's not a constitutional office holder. So we are not insane. We are just in a place where we look at people and wonder, what do these people think we are? Or how do they take us for? We shall say no. We'll continue to say no. And we'll continue to show them that we are giving alternatives. Most finally. Tumemaliza.
No, Kevin, finally, his final has been final.
You know, Fanya Mambo is playing games with us and the viewers here. How dare you say that the First Lady is being given 700 million?
That's what they are being given.
Wait. It's not my time. Okay. Don't show me. How can you say that? It is the office. We put 600 billion in the Ministry of Education. We have never said we are giving, the last time it was Machogo, 600 billion. We never say we are giving Ogamba 600 billion. No. We are giving the ministry. That office of the First Lady had roles it was playing in this country. The office of Uhuru's First Lady did so many things, including the scandal of those clinics that never saw light of day. They were brought here in containers. They never did nothing. Fanya Mambo was an adult at that time together with his Catholic bishops. They said nothing. Let us be fair. Today we believe that the First Lady was being given 700 million. No, it was the office. That was not her salary. That was not her wages. That was not her stipend. That wasn't her money. It's only that she took on a role and a responsibility. And let me tell you why these First Ladies are given those offices. Because of the influence they wield. You see, when you are the wife of the president, definitely there are certain privileges that we all agree are necessary. We don't want those privileges to go in vain. We want to exploit those privileges we have given you to give you responsibility to do with them. If we give you the privilege of traveling easy, travel easy and go and do something for your country. Travel easy and go and influence people to do the right thing for your country. That is what we are doing. We are not giving any of those. In fact, if I was the advisor to the president, I would tell them, do not remove those budgets. Just tell the people what those budgets are doing. Because there are people out there who thinks when you allocate money to an office, the money belongs to the office holder. No.
Fanya Mambo is one of them.
Fanya Mambo is not one of them. He's just pretending. He's talking to the people of Dagoretti South. So, even when Fanya Mambo comes,
he has a pretendometer for measuring. Pretending.
Even when Fanya Mambo comes here to tell you that, watu wanatumia sijui pesa fulani kuzurura. Fanya Mambo knows how important those international trips are. He knows. After all, even in this country, there are many people who are coming from very well-established countries to visit for one reason or the other. And their citizens are not complaining. We complain because we know our populace is largely, they don't understand anything. It is what you tell them that what they believe. But there's something here that I really wanted to say it again so that I don't forget it. Khafafa said, debt is tax in advance. Please be saying that often. The people who taxed Kenyans were the people who took all these large debts. It's like when I borrow money, I am earning my salary in advance because it will come to my account, it goes to pay the money I borrowed. So, actually, you've got for me the explanation I was looking for. We are in this trouble of taxes because Uhuru used the taxes during his time and he also uses the taxes that were to be paid during President William Ruto's time by borrowing. Thank you, Mr. Khafafa. You are a great man.
I know that is very comforting, given his...
Yes, but you see, Fanya Mambo really talked about rain, grass. That one, I don't want to talk about. Let the people decide whether you paid cents there. I don't want to say anything. But I also must remind you, what determines the price of those horticultural crops you're talking about, nyanyas, cabbages, and so on. I know it is largely supply, but it is not entirely supply. Sometimes we may have very weak money that you bring here, the Ugandan shilling will buy that thing at 20,000.
Or Zimbabwe dollars.
Yes, or Zimbabwe dollars. So when Ruto has made a strong Kenya shilling that can buy 6 cabbages at 20 bob, then I think we need to clap. Yes, we do. But you know, I told you last time that Fanya Mambo is hiding behind a blade of grass. You know, he has kept on telling us, every time he speaks, today he has not spoken because I warned him. But you know, I never supported Gachagua. But if you look at the examples he gives, it's only Gachagua. He is a very strong supporter of Gachagua, an implementer of Gachagua's policies and arguments, but he hides behind a blade of grass and we can see him. But, you know the body language.
He's hiding behind a blade of grass.
A blade of grass. And he always talks about it unknowingly. But now we have got it home. So when you talk, when you first said that the first lady was given 700 million, a person we never voted for. Let me tell you, in that cabinet, we voted for nobody. We voted for nobody. So that bit, you take it home as your breakfast tomorrow morning. So, but I think what I wanted to tell you, let us, me and you, use this argument to remove this affirmative action thing.
I thought you said to remove Ruto.
Let me tell you why I would like us to remove this affirmative action thing.
First of all, what do you mean by affirmative action? So that we know what we are removing.
This idea of we want to give some 47 MPs free seats because they are women. They are women, and yet they also have husbands who are already holding certain public seats. If a man gets that seat, there is a woman who will become the first lady immediately, even if it is MP or MCA. So the women are not losing out. You have just complained about the president's wife and any other people. The moment the man is elevated, they equally become her excellencies. They equally become her honorables.
They become Washimiwas.
So let us not give them double the dose. Let them wait. If they win, their husbands will be part of that win. If the men win, their wives will be part of that win. So, in fact, we are the people who have been propagating this idea of women are marginalized, are those women who do not have men attached to them, or they intend to walk out of that man anytime, or they don't have the loyalty wives are supposed to have to their husband. So they think they want to be on their own. Anyway, Kevin, I know that will be controversial.
Yeah, that statement will land you in trouble.
Yes, I'm saying, I know it will, but I am ready for them. There's a time I had an argument with a very senior lawyer here, an MP from my place, and I told her, it is now 10 years since we promulgated the new constitution, but to date, you have no way of implementing the so-called affirmative action in parliament. And you still want the law to remain in our statute books. Let's go and repeal this idea of 2/3 gender rule. It is not necessary, it is not working, it is not social, it is not religious, it is nothing. It is the selfishness of these ladies. Because these ladies have husbands attached to them, the husbands have ladies attached to them, let those ones benefit. In any case, we have made it a habit of giving old women freeway, but they have never told us how young girls coming after them will finally have the same playing field with the boys. No, they are doing nothing about that. We should have been talking about how do we make the growing girls and the growing boys one day play at par, one day contest on equal footing. They are not doing that. They think this affirmative action should be there forever. If it is going to be there forever, it means women will be subordinate to men forever. And I thought that was what we came to solve. What have these women brought to parliament to solve this problem sustainably, once and for all? So we need to remove this affirmative action thing. We need to remove it. When a man is elected, the wife automatically becomes number 2 in the constituency. That is how it is. So let us not waste time with this thing. Fanya Mambo, Kagame, talked very positively about this affordable housing of ours. And, Kagame is somebody who is neutral in this game. It is a good thing. He said it is a game changer. It is a good thing. Let's go with it. In fact, what is going to happen in most of these towns where we have had affordable housing, we are going to have life cheaper. because now there will be enough accommodation. So some of that money can go to savings and investments. I think I don't want to spend a lot of time dealing with Fanya because he's my friend, but he many times chooses to lie to us.
I like the part of taken out. Leonard, in the interest of time, the Prime Cabinet Secretary himself spoke of Diaspora Bond, and he said it could be one of the solutions to our fiscal challenges. But it appears the majority of Kenyans do not understand what a Diaspora Bond is. And this is your space. What is the Diaspora Bond and what are the likely benefits?
Great.
A bond is basically a loan to the government by citizens. Sorry, a bond is essentially a loan to the government by some other name, but it's basically citizens, or not even citizens, people from wherever who buy paper, government paper. Government holds paper, and citizens now invest in that paper that the government holds for a certain period of time. And after that period of time, of course, they get their money back and some interest on top. So that's essentially what a bond is. Now, to me, it's a question that has to be navigated very, very, very carefully because, as I've mentioned earlier, a bond is essentially a loan to the government. And the government has been trying to avoid loans because as it is right now, we are at the threshold of our debt. Rather, let me put it this way. As a country, we have a ceiling. The ceiling is in terms of how much we can borrow. We cannot go beyond that ceiling. And it's a ceiling that is prescribed by law. So as a country right now, where we are approaching the ceiling. It means we do not have headroom to borrow more money. We've just said that a bond is a debt. So an infrastructure bond is essentially a debt to government. How much of it should we borrow is a question. Will it finance some of these projects that we have in mind? That's the other question. If you look at, say, the airport, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, we need 2 billion shillings to expand it. $2 billion, to expand it. At today's rates, we are talking of about 260 billion shillings. Already, we have reached the debt ceiling. I think we are at about, the ceiling should be 10 trillion, if I'm not wrong. And take or minus, because of currency fluctuations, I think we are at about 10.1 trillion shillings. So it means we do not actually have any headroom to borrow. So how do we take that? How does that bond help us? So those are the questions that we need to think. We need to think very carefully. To my mind, the best approach is the PPP route. That is a public-private partnership route, where the government invites the private sector that has capital to come and invest in certain infrastructural projects and to run those projects for a period of time, to charge services for the use of those projects for a period of time, recoup their money, make a little profit, and then eventually, at the end of that period, hand the project or the infrastructure back to the government. That's the best route for the moment. So these are conversations that are ongoing, infrastructure bond versus PPP. These are ongoing in conversations.
But Khafafa, right now, when you mention PPPs, the name Adani comes in. So that environment has sort of been polluted. Wouldn't a public policy analyst like yourself suggest that a diaspora bond, at least in the interim, would be a good alternative to the PPPs?
It's unfortunate that Adani is associated with PPPs, but that ought not to be, because PPPs are not linked to just one particular company. They're open. They're supposed to be open. And when we have a project that needs funding, the ideal is for the government to tender for that project through the PPP mechanism, to allow competitive bidding for that project, for people to come up with the best terms possible for the country. That's the essence of a PPP. It's not the Adani one would not have been the first PPP in the country. We have the expressway, the Nairobi expressway that runs all the way from Westlands to Mlolongo. That's a PPP, and it's been done And it's running at the moment successfully. Payments have been collected from motorists. And in 25 or 30 years, the operators of the PPP are going to exit and the infrastructure is going to remain with the government. But the immediate problem of moving from Westlands to Jomo Kenyatta or to Mlolongo in a rush is solved by that PPP. So like I've said, the infrastructure bond doesn't give us much choice because of the debt ceiling. We can't breach that debt ceiling, not unless we go back to Parliament again and ask them to raise the debt ceiling. But the danger with that is we'll be burdening our future generations with the untoward debt. That is the danger with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Kevin, what do you make of the Diaspora Bond?
I think it is the best solution we are now left with after we have exhausted our borrowing capacity. The way Khafafa says it, he forgot to remind the people that when we go on borrowing, we are using future tax now. So when we borrow from our own, it's a symbiotic system where the government benefits and those people also will benefit from whatever their profit the government will pay them. And it's a safe way for them to lend. You know, when I lend, you can actually default and I may have but the government, you can always trust that will be paid. So I want to believe that was a well thought out idea by the Prime Cabinet Secretary, and I think I want to give him a thumbs up for that. But also we must also remember about the PPP. You know, people made noise, especially the Fanya Mambo axis, about Adani having been privately initiated partnership. But once now they have understood that, they have gone silent, that actually those people had initiated a very good thing, because today we want to do something about Jomo. And I'd given him the block budget of Kenya from what we collect and what we give debt repayment, county government, and run the government. And now he realizes that we need to get money from elsewhere to do what we ought to be doing at the airport, and we can't borrow, and so we need another Adani. But I don't know if we get another Adani, they will still demonize it.
And you know, Kenya's got good examples because Israel has done a diaspora bond with a lot of success, as well as India. Now, Fanya Mambo, I've seen you furiously taking notes. It appears that...
I think quickly, the first thing I noticed this week, and I think I should take these guys to court. You know, there's a car company that has just launched a 2025 model. And that is going to distract our politicians from even the debt conversation and everything else. Because when Prado launched this model, it was in the country before they could even breathe. You know, some of these cars look so nice that some of the people we are entrusting with public offices, they see them. So there's a way I can sue this company just for producing very new cars that look very nice. Because they really are affecting the way we plan our country. And these people just see a new one and they start stealing everything to acquire that one. I think this launch should have been delayed until we get a proper government at 2028, because now there will be so many of those cars in this. Yeah. Have you seen the 2025 Prado? Not even 2024. 2025 is here with Kenyans, and it's a lot of money. We have leadership, let me say, from the past and now, because I've been accused of not fighting the Uhuru administration. Let me tell you something. Kenya doesn't need to borrow. And Kenya doesn't even need to raise taxes. I'll give you examples of the late Biwott, who had so much stashed in Switzerland and so much stashed in Australia, Biwott, that when he died, Kenya lost a lot of money to those countries. Right now, there's a funny governor from some funny institution somewhere who has bought a lot of apartments in Dubai. And one thing he doesn't understand about Dubai law is that when you die, if you had bought an apartment there, it doesn't succeed to your children. It goes back to the government. It is yours for life. After that, your children don't inherit it. Kenya is losing, and Kenya is wealthy. There was one famous account that had 3 billion, and there were not shillings. You remember that account? 3 billion, and there were not shillings.
And you remember how much Mbadi said we are losing per day?
Even when you forget about how much we are losing per day, I wish I was sitting at State House today. Because these are some of the people I would call. If Kenya was to take out the money owned by politicians in Switzerland only, I think the Swiss economy would collapse.
Is that a statement of fact?
It is true. There is so much money hidden in Swiss accounts. There's so much money hidden in accounts outside of this country. Kenya doesn't need to borrow. If that one guy in one account, and we know him to have many accounts, that one guy in one account had $3 billion. And it raised a furor over the internet everywhere. And he never denied because it was true. That money was there. $3 billion is close to 300, is half of our education budget for the year. And that is more than what you need for the Adani deal. Let me tell you, there's a saying in some government quarters, before, now, and even in future, that there are certain offices when you occupy, especially as KRA, at KRA as a commissioner, if you needed a 4-bedroom house, you have to get a 5th. And the 5th is money that is usually kept there. There was a politician who died in a plane crash, and you remember money was found in a 40-foot container. We need to get to a place where we start saying, how much money can people literally keep? As we say, this economy is struggling and we are looking for money. There are people who've kept a lot of physical money in houses in Kenya. I wish there was a way to audit how much is in physical monies that is kept in houses of people and containers and underground storage, like fools in houses, and it's not helping this economy. How do we start inspiring the confidence of these people to bring this money out of houses before you even go outside the country? I am telling you, even those who are listening and they know, they've already started checking the door to that room, whether it's locked, and they're thinking of changing the password to the safe. First and foremost, before we leave our borders, let the president come out and give confidence and tell any other fool, and I call them fools, who is hiding money in some banker in the house. There is a lot of money. How do we get that money to start helping this country? Those are the guys who should be giving the government bonds. Those are the guys who should be told, we have less hospitals, for example, in County X. Go start up a level 5 hospital or a level 4 hospital. You'll charge this amount of money. We will allow you to do this. There's a road in this place. Go fix it. And we shall allow you. And then also when you were changing the 1,000 note, you remember, Kenya lost a lot of money. Because there are people who had stashed money for the next campaign. And that money, sometimes unakanga unasikia mtu mwendazimu anakwambia, I have the old 1,000 notes, what can we do? I wish we would find a way to allow some of this money to come back. And you're told if you have this amount of money, you can build anything that will help wananchi, even if it's a 2-kilometer stretch of road that is affecting a certain village. So before we borrow, if I was president today, I would inspire the people to think in their hearts of how we can start unlocking some of the monies that is hidden locally. It's a lot of it. Some of the money that was lost in the 1,000 shillings note, it's a lot of it. And it takes a lot of stealing to acquire that money because they stole most of them. And so then finally, people who've held certain government positions for some time, and then automatically they've become rich. But when they were not government, they were not rich. These are the conversations we need to start saying and telling them, I have opened a window. We are about to pass a law that would enable us to steal a lot from you. But how many of you are willing to give 20, 30, 40% of what they've stolen? But there's so many Kenyans are also burning in guilt when they look at how things are and they remember how much they've stolen from this country. Some of them are just very guilty and they wish they could give back. We haven't prepared a mechanism. What helped Rwanda after the genocide? No law would have helped Rwanda other than reconciliation and people sitting together and say, I have wronged you. I killed your brother. It's painful. Forgive me. I killed your mother. I am sorry. And then you leave knowing that this is the guy who killed my mother. But there's nothing you can do about it because if you kill him, then you'll have another genocide. Let us invite anybody who has stolen from this country. And they feel they would want to give a fraction of what they stole in the past. Because some of them we don't even know they stole. They're even wondering how foolish we are that we've never discovered that they stole. We give them an opportunity to give back some of that money to this country. Kenya is wealthy. Inaibiwa, na haishi. It's just too much. I think let's allow that which we can recover fast to come back. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a few trillions. Because if that one account had $3 billion and this person has several, And then there are a few others who lived like Kenya belonged to their mother and raped this country for 24 years. And then you have another, even during Nani's rule, Kibaki rule, I remember even there was one minister, Murungaru, who was stopped from going to the US, and then they labor, and they said, and they even mentioned how much money the US government believed he had stolen from this economy. Those are the people we need to be having conversations with. And unfortunately, most of them, after they are done stealing, they never speak after that. They go quiet, they live very private life. But our money rots in their houses, and some of it rots in offshore accounts. Those countries don't even have copper to sell. They're building their roads with our money.
You've mentioned a former cabinet minister. Don't you think he has got rights to sue you for character assassination? Like
I will say this, and I will repeat.
One.
That former cabinet secretary first was denied rights to enter the US. It was splashed all over the internet how much the US believed he had stolen. And he got to a place that it was impossible even for the president to reappoint him again. If those things are untrue, he can take me to court. But wherever he is at home, he even wishes we would just forget, because he's doing very well with our money. So these are the things we need to bring to light. But Kenya kuna pesa, and we don't need to borrow.
Okay, Kevin, your closing remarks.
As I close, I will remind Fanya Mambo to use palatably. You know, when you say until we get a proper government, honestly, you are not being patriotic. The government we have today is more proper than any other we have had before. There's one place I agree with you. I can't disagree with you on everything. I can't. There are sometimes you choose to say the truth and you choose to make sense. Where you made sense, except the language you used, that if there is anybody holding money abroad, they should be given concession. Bring the money back. The only thing we will take from it is tax, but we will not ask you where you got it from. And we will not disclose that it is you, Mokua, Dismus, that you have brought this money to the country. In fact, we will not need to borrow money. I agree with you there. We will have more money than we need in this. In any case, it is all in foreign currency. That I agree with you 102%. The only place where I don't agree with you, when you start using the language, if there are anybody who stole. You know, sometimes there are certain monies you can get just because you are nice to somebody and he says, Owidi, you have visited us here in China and you really treated us well when we are in Kenya. This 10 million is for you. And then you say, let me just open an account and keep it here. I will pull it down by credit card, pole. Such are also there.
How often does that...
It's not often, but I was just giving it as a hypothetical example. Because this is the country where we say, if we find you working for the government and you have money, we can't explain to us where you got it from, then we want to take it away. But there are many people who are not even employed, have no business, but are churning billions here, and we don't even ask them. And we are not being fair to those who are working, because we assume if you are working for the government, the only place you can steal money from is the government. They can also steal from where these other people are stealing. Yeah, these people who are not working and not doing business. So if that is illegal, those people also, those who are not working, have no business, but are churning billions, also should answer to some question. But Fanya Mambo, you said something here which is not good. You need to withdraw it. You said there are some people who raped this Kenya for 24 years. You know, the only person who ruled this country for 24 years was Moi, nobody else. So I told you to try to make you believable and understandable. Sometimes give examples which are from your own community also. Because nobody raped this country more than Jomo Kenyatta.
So you're suggesting charity begins at home?
Yes, you also sometimes tell us, Jomo did this, Uhuru did this, Kibaki, Moi Naruto.
Nimetaja Uhuru. So you want you to...
Otherwise... You know, the whole 1,000 notes was Uhuru's way of fighting Ruto. It is okay. And he was fighting it from imaginations. When he finally did that, he didn't even get that money he was looking for. Otherwise, Kenyans, the same strength and willpower that we use to oversight the national government, let's cascade it down to the counties and the CDF. A lot of our monies are being used there. And those people are telling us how devolution is a good thing that has changed Kenya, but we are not seeing where the devolution resources are going to. In fact, sometimes I begin to think that we should have devolved the funds instead of devolving governments, so that we just have funds, 10 billion, 15 billion going to Kakamega annually to do Kakamega things without a government there. It's just a committee like the CDF one. Maybe we would be achieving more with the devolved funds, because we are creating miniature kingdoms there where their people behave like they own that money and can do anything with it. You find you go to a county, when a governor is doing things that support him, he spends so much money. When he's even launching a project for the people literally walk on mud. When he's launching a personal project, it is red carpet. And the guests are paid for flights. So we need to oversight the county governments even more than we oversight the national government.
Are you addressing the Senate?
I'm addressing Kenyans.
No, but the Senate has got the constitutional
The senators are also Kenyans and they are listening. In fact, there are some senators who have been bribed just by a smile from governors and presses. Governors will go praise senators. Oh, you know, Senator so-and-so, we work very well. He doesn't disturb and so on. And when he passes there, kitu kidogo, and things go wrong and they do nothing.
But Kevin, you've opened a Pandora's box because we have sufficient governance institutions to address any corruption, either at CDF or at a county level. Why do you still need another piece of legislation while you've got the Auditor General, you've got the control of budget, you've got the senators, you've got ESCC, you've got DCI? What kind of Eureka legislation do you need to address these acts of thuggery?
You are not being fair to me. I haven't said we need a new legislation. I have only said, Kenyans, let's use the stamina that we use to oversight the national government to also oversight, to cascade to oversight the county governments and the CDF funds. Si kusema tu, okay. Kenya is over-legislated anyway.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I'm excited that things are turning around. We discussed earlier the Forex. We discussed about inflation coming down. We've discussed about the cost of fuel coming down without subsidies. The cost of food coming down without subsidies.
You also discussed Fanya Mambo's candidacy.
Yes, of course we did. But there are things that are also happening even at the level of government. I mean, we have competent CSs now, like John Buddy at Treasury. And John Buddy is doing fantastic things. One of the things that there are four accountability structures that he has proposed to use going forward, and that will take care of wastage, that will take care of systemic corruption. So he's talked about zero-based budgeting. I don't think we have enough time to go through the nitty-gritties of what these measures entail, but I just mentioned them. There's zero-based budgeting, there is accrual accounting, there is zero-based budgeting, there's accrual accounting. Sorry, the third and the fourth one elude me. I think when you interrupted me, you threw me off track.
At some stage, you'll get coffee.
Yes, I think I need coffee. Yeah, but even just looking at those two, like zero-based budgeting, that in itself takes care of wastage, because every year, government starts from the budget of last year and then builds up on that. That's why you have, like last year, if we needed 15 Prados, this year we start with the 15 Prados that we needed last year as the basis of our budget. And then now we build up from there. But zero-based budgeting means every year you start from zero. You assume that last year's budget did not exist, and then you look at the needs of the country at that particular period, and then you begin to create budgets based on the needs of that country. The other measures, I think, was e-procurement. E-procurement is really going to help, because you're going to move procurement away from manipulation by procurement officers sitting somewhere, and you make it electronic, you make it visible, you use technology to ensure that procurement is above board. And then the last measure, of course, is a Treasury single account. So therefore, the zero-based budgeting, e-procurement, accrual accounting, and Treasury single account. So those are measures that John Buddy has instituted, and we are very excited because we are seeing wastage now coming to an end. We are seeing corruption being abated. It may not be possible to get rid of systemic corruption, as in to bring it down to zero, but at least it will be brought within levels that are manageable for the country.
Yeah. Leonard Khafafa, Kevin Owidi, and Fanya Mambo, thanks for your time. The conversation has been very invigorating. We've run time by 15 minutes. Thanks a lot for creating time. See you next week. Asante sana.
Thank you.